Princess Velshara was born into the Grand Nithari Empire, a world of towering spires, shining cities, and ancient traditions. From the moment she opened her eyes, she was expected to carry the legacy of her people, to rule with wisdom, strength, and to bear the future heirs of her family. But there was a secret no one wanted to speak aloud. Velshara was infertile. This truth weighed heavily on her from a young age. The doctors had told her family that she could never have children. For the Nithari, a race proud of their long lineage, this was seen not as a challenge, but as a flaw. Her parents loved her, but the court whispered behind closed doors. In the royal, advisors questioned her ability to lead without a bloodline. Nobles looked at her with pity or doubt. Even Velshara herself began to wonder if she could ever fulfill her destiny. To protect the empire's image, Velshara was sent away to a distant colony, far from the capital's watchful eyes. The official reason was to learn diplomacy and governance, but many knew it was to hide her imperfection. The colony was a small settlement on a moon orbiting a remote planet. Its sky was a soft shade of pink, with two suns that cast long shadows. It was peaceful, but lonely. Velshara spent her days studying politics, history, and leadership. Yet, in quiet moments she felt the sharp sting of isolation. The dream of motherhood seemed further away than ever. She often walked alone beneath the moonlight, her thoughts heavy. One evening, standing on a hill overlooking the colony, Velshara looked at the stars. She wondered if anyone in the vast universe shared her pain, the pain of being expected to give life but not able to. "I am still whole," she whispered to the night, "even if I cannot bear a child." But the world around her was not so kind. The Council of Elders sent messages reminding her of her duties that seemed impossible without an heir. As days turned into months, Velshara's hope dimmed. She wondered if she was destined to be forgotten, a princess without a future. Yet deep inside, a small flame of hope remained, and soon, that hope would come in a form she never expected. The outer colony was quiet beneath the pink skies of Nithari's distant moon. It was a small place, far from the grand halls and busy streets of the empire's capital. Here, Princess Velshara lived in a modest residence, surrounded by few attendants and fewer friends. Though the colony was peaceful, she often felt a deep loneliness that no royal title could erase. One morning, the calm was broken by the arrival of a human ship. Its design was different from anything the Nithari had seen before, sleek, smooth, and strangely simple. The humans were known to be tough survivors from a faraway planet called Earth. Many in the Empire looked down on them, thinking humans were primitive and uncivilized. But Velshara was curious. She watched as a small group of humans stepped onto the colony's landing pad. Leading them was a man named Dr. Evan Cade. He was tall, with dark hair and warm eyes that seemed to study everything carefully. Unlike the usual diplomats or soldiers who came with loud commands and grand speeches, Evan moved quietly, with gentle confidence. He was a scientist, one who studied life itself. The colony's leaders welcomed Evan and his team formally, but Velshara was the one who greeted them in person. She had heard about the humans before but never met one closely. When she first saw Evan, she felt something unexpected, a calm, honest energy. It was different from the careful politeness she was used to. As days passed, Evan worked alongside the colony's scientists, sharing knowledge and learning about the Nithari people. Velshara found herself drawn to his quiet strength. She often watched him from a distance, wondering what he thought of her world and her people. One afternoon in the small garden behind her home, Velshara and Evan met by chance. She had been walking among the glowing plants that thrived in the moon's soft light. Evan was examining a strange flower, turning it gently in his hands. "Your plants are beautiful," he said, looking up. "They survive in hard places, like your people." Velshara smiled softly. "We are used to challenges." They talked quietly about science and nature, and slowly the distance between them lessened. Then, after a pause, Evan asked carefully, Your Highness, I heard something about your health. Is it true that you cannot have children? Velshara's heart tightened. Few people spoke about her condition openly. It was the reason she was sent away from the capital, to hide a secret that many believed was a weakness. She nodded, not surprised by the question. It is true, she said softly. It is said I am infertile. The doctors say it cannot be changed. Evan looked thoughtful. On Earth, infertility is not always permanent. Sometimes with the right knowledge we can help the body heal or find other ways to have children. Velshara raised an eyebrow, curious but cautious. You believe there is hope for me? He nodded. I would like to study your case. If you allow it, I might find a way. She hesitated. Trust was hard to come by in her life, but something about Evan's sincerity felt different. Very well. I will trust you. Over the next weeks, Evan worked in a small laboratory near the colony's edge. He studied the records of Nithari genetics and compared them with human biology. Many nights, Velshara visited him, bringing data or sharing stories of her life. Their conversations grew deeper. She learned about Earth, its struggles and its wonders. He learned about Nithari history and the pain of being considered incomplete. Velshara saw in Evan not just a scientist but a person who cared, and for the first time in many years, she allowed herself to hope. One evening, as the twin moons rose high, Evan showed her his discovery. Your body's issue is not as simple as infertility. Your species relies on ancient biosynthetic methods that have limits, but with Earth's gene therapy and bioadaptive technology, there is a chance for natural pregnancy. Velshara's eyes widened. You mean, I could become a mother? It is possible, Evan said carefully, but it will require cooperation and courage. The Empire's doctors may not accept this. She nodded, determination growing inside her. I will face whatever comes. This chance is worth it. Word of Evan's project soon reached the colony's leaders. Many were skeptical, even hostile. A human meddling in royal bloodlines? It is dangerous and disrespectful, some said. Orders came quickly. Evan was to stop his work and leave the colony. The medical board declared the experiment forbidden, fearing change and scandal. Velshara felt a cold weight in her chest. She did not want to lose hope again. One night she visited Evan secretly. You must leave soon, she said, her voice shaking. They will not allow this. Evan smiled gently. I will go if you wish, but promise me one thing. What? Never give up on this hope. For yourself, for your people. Velshara took his hand. I promise. As Evan prepared to depart, Velshara stood alone beneath the stars, her heart full of new dreams and old fears. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she also knew one truth. Hope was the most powerful thing of all. The day after Dr. Evan Cade left the outer colony, a quiet tension filled the air. Princess Velshara felt a hollow space where hope had started to bloom. The colony's leaders looked at her with wary eyes, unsure of how to treat a princess who had trusted a human and whose fate now seemed uncertain. But Velshara was not one to give up easily. Though the royal protocols and traditions were strict, she believed there was more to life than rules. She had tasted hope, and that small spark refused to die. Days passed slowly. Velshara spent her time reading the scientific notes Evan had left behind. She learned about gene therapy, about the delicate work of changing the body's cells to heal itself. The more she read, the more she understood that what Evan had tried to do was not magic. It was science. And science, she thought, was the key to her future. Still, the council's whispers grew louder. She risks dishonor, one official said. If the Empire's traditions break, what will remain? But Velshara was not alone. Some of her attendants quietly showed support. Among them was her closest aide, Leora, who had always believed in the princess's strength. Your Highness, Leora said one evening, I believe Evan's work is real. I will help you. Together we can find a way. Velshara smiled gratefully. Thank you, Leora. I need all the help I can get. Together they began reaching out to allies beyond the colony. Word of Velshara's condition and Evan's human technology quietly spread through secret channels. Some diplomats, curious and hopeful, offered assistance. Others remained suspicious, warning of possible dangers. Meanwhile, Velshara's thoughts often returned to Evan himself. Though they had only spent a short time together, their bond had grown stronger than she expected. He had treated her with kindness and respect, unlike so many others who saw only her title or her flaw. In a message sent through encrypted channels, Evan wrote, I trust your strength. Science can only do so much. Your courage is what will make the difference. Velshara replied, I will not fail. For myself, and for our future. Days turned into weeks, and the princess found herself growing more determined. She began to dream not only of becoming a mother, but also of changing the way her people thought. Could she show them that hope and change were not weaknesses, but the greatest strengths? One evening, a new message arrived, this time from the Empire's capital. The Council of Elders had heard of her secret efforts and demanded she return to face judgment. The order was clear: abandon the project or lose her claim to the throne. Velshara read the message with calm resolve. They do not understand, she said to Leora, but I will not give up. Together they planned a bold move. Instead of returning, Velshara would journey to Earth, the home of the humans and the source of the new hope. If she could learn more, gain more allies, and find a way to bring this hope back, perhaps she could change not only her fate but that of her entire people. The journey was long and dangerous. Space travel across galaxies was not simple, and the Empire watched carefully for any sign of rebellion. But Velshara had learned to move quietly and think carefully. On board a small diplomatic shuttle, she watched the stars pass by, feeling a strange mixture of fear and excitement. She was leaving everything familiar behind: her home, her title, her people's expectations. But she was moving toward something new, something real. When the shuttle arrived in Earth's orbit, Velshara was greeted by a world unlike any she had ever known. Bright cities stretched across the horizon, filled with people of every shape and color. Earth was noisy, crowded, and alive. Evan was waiting for her at the spaceport, his face lighting up when he saw her. You came, he said softly. Velshara nodded. I had to. There is too much at stake to turn back. Evan smiled. We have much to do. The following days passed in a blur of meetings, tests, and preparations. Earth's advanced medical teams welcomed Velshara with curiosity and respect. They listened to her story and shared their own knowledge freely. Despite the many new faces and strange customs, Velshara felt something she had never felt before: a true partnership. She was no longer just a princess with a problem. She was a woman working with others toward a common goal. During a quiet moment in the hospital garden, Evan and Velshara spoke of their hopes. Do you think your people will accept this? Evan asked. Velshara looked up at the sky. Change is never easy, but if we do not try, we lose everything. I want to show them that hope is stronger than fear. Evan reached out and took her hand gently. You are stronger than you know. Velshara smiled, feeling warmth spread inside her chest. For the first time, she believed that her future could be different, not just for herself but for all who would come after. The path ahead was uncertain. There would be challenges, doubts, and maybe even enemies. But together, Velshara and Evan had begun something new, something that could change the fate of two worlds. And with hope as their guide, nothing seemed impossible. The sterile white walls of Earth's advanced laboratory gleamed under bright lights. Princess Velshara sat quietly on a cushioned chair, her hands resting nervously in her lap. Around her, scientists and doctors prepared the equipment, their faces calm but filled with hope. Dr. Evan Cade stood close by, ready to guide her through the process they had planned for weeks. The new gene therapy was unlike anything the Nithari Empire had ever seen. It was a delicate blend of human technology and careful study of Velshara's unique biology. "This is the first step," Evan explained gently. "We are using a bioadaptive method that helps your body adjust naturally. It will take time, but we believe it can work." Velshara nodded, swallowing her fear. "I trust you." The treatment began with a small injection, designed to help her body accept changes at the cellular level. Over the following days, she endured many tests and treatments. The scientists monitored every detail carefully, adjusting the therapy as needed. At times, Velshara felt tired or uncertain. The memories of her past struggles crept into her mind, of being told she was broken, of the whispers and judgments from the royal court. But each time doubt appeared, Evan's calm presence reminded her to hold on. "You are stronger than any challenge," he said one afternoon, his eyes meeting hers. "Your body is learning to heal." Meanwhile, far away from Earth, news of Velshara's treatment had reached the highest levels of the Nithari Empire. The Council of Elders was alarmed. To them, the idea of a human scientist interfering with royal bloodlines was dangerous and unacceptable. An emergency session was called. The council declared the project forbidden. Any further work with human technology on the princess was to be stopped immediately. The decision was sent in a formal message to Earth's leaders through diplomatic channels. The message was clear. Velshara must end the treatment and return to the Empire at once. Back in the lab, the message arrived as a heavy blow. Velshara read it with a steady face, but inside her heart ached. Evan looked at her with concern. "What will you do?" Velshara took a deep breath. "I cannot stop now. This is more than just science. It is my chance to live fully." Evan nodded slowly. "Then we must be careful. The council has power and they will watch closely." The team agreed to proceed quietly, keeping the treatment low profile. The laboratory increased security, and the doctors worked in shifts to protect the secret. Weeks passed. Slowly, signs of change appeared. Velshara's body began to respond to the therapy. Blood tests showed new growth in the tissues that had been inactive for years. For the first time, there was real hope. But hope also brought risk. One evening, as Velshara rested in her room, a visitor arrived unexpectedly. It was a representative from the Nithari Council, a stern woman named Alira, dressed in formal robes. "You must end this," Alira said firmly. "The council's orders are clear. Your actions dishonor the Empire." Velshara stood with quiet strength. "I respect the Empire, but I must follow my own path. I will not give up hope." Alira's eyes narrowed. "You risk everything. Your title, your family, even your freedom." Velshara met her gaze. "If being true to myself means risking these things, then so be it." Alira hesitated for a moment, then turned to leave. This is not over. After the visitor left, Velshara felt a mixture of fear and determination. The road ahead was more dangerous than ever. But she knew she was not alone. That night, Evan sat beside her, holding her hand gently. "You have courage beyond words. We will face whatever comes together." Velshara smiled, feeling warmth in the quiet room. "Thank you, Evan, for believing in me when no one else did." As the weeks turned into months, the treatment progressed. Velshara's body began to prepare for what had once seemed impossible. Natural pregnancy. In secret, Evan and the medical team celebrated small victories. Each new sign of life was a step toward a future no one had dared to imagine. But the council's shadow loomed large. Rumors spread in the Empire about the princess's defiance. Some called her a rebel. Others whispered of miracles. The people were divided. Some feared change, while others secretly hoped for a new beginning. Velshara's story began to inspire quiet conversations in distant corners of the Empire. Mothers shared her courage, young women dreamed of hope, and even some elders wondered if tradition might need to evolve. Yet the threat remained real. One night, a group of officials from the council sent a formal warning to the Earth government. They demanded Velshara be returned immediately or face consequences. Faced with this ultimatum, the leaders on Earth discussed how to protect Velshara and the progress they had made. Evan spoke clearly. This is not just a medical issue, it is about respect for life, for choice, and for the future. We must stand with her. With careful planning, Velshara was offered a protected status on Earth, a new kind of diplomatic agreement that allowed her to continue the treatment safely. Though far from her home, Velshara felt a growing sense of belonging in this new world. The human kindness, the scientific hope, and Evan's unwavering support gave her strength. She looked out at Earth's sky, feeling a quiet promise inside her. No matter what the council said, no matter the dangers ahead, she was ready to become a mother. And in that decision, she found her true power. The sun rose softly over Earth's horizon, painting the sky with warm colors that promised new beginnings. Princess Velshara stood by the window of her temporary home, watching the city, below pulse with life. The world around her was vibrant and full of energy, a sharp contrast to the quiet loneliness she had known for so long. Her thoughts, however, were heavy. The message from the Nithari Council still echoed in her mind. They demanded she return immediately and abandon the treatment. They warned of punishment and loss of title if she disobeyed. But Velshara had made her choice. She was no longer the princess who quietly accepted fate. She was a woman determined to take control of her own life and future. Later that morning, she met with Dr. Evan Cade in the small laboratory where they had first begun their work together. His calm smile gave her strength. "You look ready," he said softly. "I am," she replied. "I have thought about it long and hard. I will not go back, not yet. I need to see this through." Evan nodded. "It is a brave choice." They discussed the risks. Returning to the Empire meant certain rejection and the end of the project. Staying meant facing political and social challenges, but it also meant hope. Velshara's resolve was clear. She wanted to become a mother, not just for herself, but to show her people that change was possible. Word had begun to spread quietly among Earth's leaders and scientists about her situation. Some admired her courage, others worried about the political fallout with the Nithari Empire. Despite the tensions, a few offered their support. A small team of experts was assembled to help Velshara with the next steps of her treatment. The team included biologists, geneticists, and doctors from different countries, all working together with one goal. Velshara found comfort in their kindness and knowledge. For the first time, she felt part of a larger family. One evening, as she rested in the garden of the research center, she received a secure message from Leora, her aide back on the colony. "Your courage inspires many," the message read. "Some are beginning to question the old ways. The people want change." Velshara smiled. Even far from home, her story was making a difference, but not everyone was pleased. The Council of Elders held another meeting. The discussion was heated. "She threatens our traditions," one elder said. "If we let this go on, what will become of the Empire?" Another elder added, "We must remind her of her duties. The Empire does not tolerate rebellion." Meanwhile, Velshara prepared for the most important moment of her life. The new treatment was designed to help her body naturally conceive, something her people had thought impossible. It was a delicate process that required patience and care. Evan guided her through every step, explaining how her body was responding. Velshara felt the changes deep inside, a feeling of life stirring where there had been only silence before. The days passed, she grew stronger, not only physically but emotionally. The hope that had seemed distant now felt close and real. One night, as she lay awake, Evan sat beside her. "Do you ever fear what might happen?" he asked quietly. Velshara thought for a moment. "Yes, but fear cannot stop me anymore. I have waited too long to lose this chance." Evan reached out and took her hand. "I believe in you." In the weeks that followed, the bond between them deepened. They shared dreams, fears, and quiet moments of laughter. Velshara had never imagined she could find such friendship, and maybe something more, in a stranger from another world. Then came the moment of truth. A test confirmed what they had hoped. Velshara was pregnant. The news was met with joy and relief in the lab. Tears came to her eyes. After years of doubt and pain, she was finally going to be a mother. But the celebration was bittersweet. The Council's warnings grew louder, and tensions between Earth and the Nithari Empire rose. Diplomats exchanged harsh words, and the future of Velshara's place in both worlds became uncertain. Yet Velshara stood firm. Her choice had been made. She was ready to face whatever came next, not just for herself but for the future she wanted to build. She sent a message back home, simple but full of hope. I carry not just a child, but the promise of change. I ask for patience and understanding. Together, we can grow stronger. As the sun set over Earth, Velshara looked forward with determination. The road ahead was still difficult, but for the first time, she believed it would lead to a brighter tomorrow. The soft hum of medical equipment filled the room as Princess Velshara rested peacefully. The early months of her pregnancy were full of hope, but also cautious watchfulness. Each day brought new feelings, new sensations she had never known before. Dr. Evan Cade sat beside her, reviewing the latest health reports. The child growing inside Velshara was healthy and strong, an extraordinary blend of Nithari and human biology. It was a symbol of something greater than either species alone. Velshara smiled faintly, feeling the gentle flutter of life within her. It still feels strange, she admitted softly. To carry a child I never thought I could have. Evan reached out, placing a comforting hand over hers. You are making history, not just for your people but for the future of both our worlds. The bond between them had deepened since the pregnancy began. What had started as a scientific partnership was now a true friendship, one built on trust, respect, and quiet understanding. But the challenges had not disappeared. Back in the Nithari Empire, whispers and rumors grew louder. Some saw Velshara as a threat to tradition. Others saw her as a symbol of hope. The Council of Elders struggled to respond. They debated fiercely whether to punish her or to accept the change she represented. At the colony, Velshara received messages of support from unexpected places. Young nobles, common citizens, and even some officials who wished for progress. Their words gave her strength. One message from a woman named Mira touched her deeply. Your courage lights the way. I believe a new day is coming. Velshara read the message aloud to Evan. People want to believe. They want a hope. Evan nodded. Change is never easy, but it is worth fighting for. As the months passed, Velshara's condition improved. The new bioadaptive therapy worked well with her body, easing discomfort and helping her grow stronger. She spent her days learning about human customs related to pregnancy, things she had never experienced. From gentle walks in Earth's parks to shared meals with the medical team, she began to enjoy moments of peace. One afternoon, as they sat in a sunny garden, Evan shared stories of his own family, simple tales of Earth life and human connection. Velshara listened with a smile. Your world is very different from mine, but not so different, Evan replied. We both cherish family, love, and hope. Their friendship blossomed quietly, and Velshara felt something she had never allowed herself before, a gentle warmth in her heart that went beyond friendship. Yet she kept her focus on the child growing within her. This was not just about them, it was about the future. One evening, as Earth's blue sky darkened with stars, Velshara received a message from the Empire's Council. The tone was softer than before. We are watching closely, the message read. Your child represents a new future, but the path is uncertain. Proceed with care. Velshara read the words carefully. It was not acceptance, but it was not condemnation either. She answered simply, I carry hope for all our people. I will walk this path with honor. The response came days later, a cautious invitation to return to the Empire, not as a prisoner, but as a mother and leader to be heard. Velshara shared the news with Evan. Maybe they are beginning to understand, he smiled. Your courage is opening doors no one thought possible. But the greatest test was still ahead. As her pregnancy progressed, Velshara began to feel the first strong movements of her child. It was a moment filled with joy and wonder, a miracle she had longed for all her life. She reached out to hold Evan's hand. This child is more than life. It is a bridge between two worlds. Evan squeezed her hand gently. And you are the bridge's keeper. Together, they prepared for the journey back to the Empire. Velshara knew that returning would bring new challenges, questions, judgments, and perhaps resistance. But she was ready. The child growing inside her was a symbol of hope and change, a living proof that old boundaries could be crossed and new futures built. As the day of departure approached, Velshara looked at the stars, feeling a deep peace. She was no longer just a princess without hope. She was a mother-to-be, a leader, and a symbol of unity. Her story was far from over, and the future was waiting. The grand hall of the Nithari Empire's capital was filled with a tense silence. Princess Velshara stepped forward, her steps steady, her gaze calm but full of quiet strength. The room was crowded with the council of elders, nobles, and curious onlookers. All eyes were on her, the princess who had defied tradition, who had crossed galaxies, and who now carried a child that would change their world forever. Velshara's heart beat steadily. This was her moment, not just as a princess, but as a mother and a symbol of hope. The council elder, a stern woman with sharp eyes, rose to speak. Princess Velshara, you have returned. Your actions have shaken our traditions and challenged our beliefs. You carry a child unlike any before, half human, half Nithari. This child represents both hope and uncertainty. Velshara nodded respectfully. Yes, Elder, I carry hope. Hope for unity, for understanding, and for a future where our people can grow stronger together. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some faces showed fear, others curiosity, and a few held quiet admiration. One young noble stood up, his voice clear. If the princess's child can bring strength and new life to our people, should we not welcome this change? Is it not time to open our hearts and minds? Another elder shook his head. Our ways are ancient for a reason. We cannot simply abandon them because of fear or curiosity. Velshara looked at the assembly with steady eyes. Our traditions are important, but so is life. This child is not a threat. It is a promise that we can grow beyond old fears and build a future together. The room fell silent. The weight of her words settled deeply. Then slowly, the eldest elder spoke. Perhaps it is time to listen, to see not with fear but with hope. A new chapter was beginning. Days later, word spread throughout the empire. The princess had returned not as a symbol of failure, but as a leader who dared to change fate. Velshara's child was born under a bright sky, healthy and strong. The child's eyes held a spark of both worlds, a living reminder that unity was possible. The people of the empire gathered to welcome the new life. Some still whispered with doubt, but many celebrated quietly. The child's birth brought a renewed sense of possibility and a glimpse of a future where two worlds could come together. Velshara held her child gently, feeling a deep peace she had never known. Evan, standing beside her, smiled warmly. You made the impossible real. She looked at him with gratitude. We did this together, for the child and for all who will come after. The empire slowly began to change. Laws were reconsidered, and new conversations opened about cooperation and understanding with other worlds. Velshara's courage sparked a movement, one that inspired young and old alike to imagine a different future. For the first time, in generations, the Nithari looked outward with hope rather than fear, and at the center of it all was a princess who had refused to accept impossible. Her legacy was not just her child, but the promise of a new dawn, a world where differences were celebrated and unity was strength. As she gazed at the stars one quiet night, Velshara whispered to herself. This is only the beginning. My future belonged to those who dared to dream, and she was ready to lead the way.